Welcome to this episode of Uplink, the Big Story. Today, we are navigating the complex skies of the FAA Reauthorization Act of 2023. This crucial piece of legislation is at the heart of our national aviation system, yet it's currently in holding pattern, waiting for clearance from the Senate. Our episode today will help you understand what's at stake and why communities, especially young people, need to pay attention. First, let's understand what FAA reauthorization means. It's essentially a green light from Congress for the Federal Aviation Administration to continue its operation and receive funding. Think of it as the fuel that powers our national airspace system from air traffic control to airport improvements. Now, here's where we are. The FAA current authorization, extended briefly, is set to expire on March 8th of 2024. This looming deadline has caused more than 22 aviation trade groups to issue an urgent call for action. They're pressing Senate leaders to pass a comprehensive 5-year bill, which is crucial for the stability and safety of our skies. So why is this important to you? Well, the reauthorization impacts everything from the efficiency of your flight to the safety measures in place when you fly. A delay in passing this bill means uncertainty in vital areas like staffing, infrastructure, and technological advancements in aviation. One hot topic in the bill is the debate over raising the mandatory pilot retirement age from 65 to 67. Additionally, changes to the pilot training requirements and discussions about flight restrictions at certain airports are on the table, affecting how and where we fly. The impact of this bill extends beyond just airlines and pilots. It affects counties that support over a third of our nation's airport. A lapse in the FAA authorization could freeze federal funding for airport maintenance and improvements, impacting local economies and job opportunities. As we look ahead, it's crucial for the House and Senate to align their vision for American aviation. The clock is ticking, and the outcome of this legislative process will chart the course for our aviation industry's future. Welcome to Uplink. The aviation dialogue starts here. I'm Shasta Ways.
And I'm Michael Wiles.
Thank you for joining us. Imagine our national airspace as a bustling highway in the sky where safety, efficiency, and innovation are paramount. Now picture this. The FAA Reauthorization Act of 2023, a crucial legislation, is in a holding pattern, awaiting Senate's clearance. This isn't just another bureaucratic delay. It's a critical crossroad that could reshape the future of American aviation. Keeping up with the news, recent events have added urgency to the situation. The alarming incident with the Boeing 737 MAX 9 and the subsequent meeting between Boeing CEO David Calhoun and Senate leaders have thrust airline safety into the spotlight. The Senate is now poised to intensify its scrutiny over Boeing while grappling with the complexities of the FAA bill. This comes amid a backdrop of stalled negotiations and heightened concern about aviation safety and innovation. The implications of the FAA bill extends beyond pilots and planes. It affects local communities that rely on airports for economic vitality, young professionals who are considering aviation careers, and everyday travelers who seek safe and efficient air travel. The bill's focus on enhancing FAA efficiencies, promoting aviation workforce growth, and encouraging innovation isn't just a legislative agenda. It's about securing America's leadership in the global aviation landscape. As we navigate this complex airspace, the decisions made by the FAA Administrator, Michael Whitaker, Senate leaders, and industry figures will be under a microscope. Their ability to align innovate, and prioritize the nation's aviation needs will not only shape the immediate outcomes, but also chart a course for the future of air travel. So, Michael, as we navigated through the intricacies of the Reauthorization Act of 2023, what would you say are the strategic steps the industry and its leaders need to take to consider ensuring a safe, efficient, and more innovative future for the U.S. skies?
I think there are 5 things that are at stake with the upcoming FAA Reauthorization Act. Essentially, leaders want to make flying safer. We want to introduce better tech for training. We want to improve the workforce. We want to improve airport and support staff. And we want better plans for tomorrow. In terms of making flying safer, I think after the recent issues with the Boeing 737 MAX 9 plane, it's clear that we need focus on, keeping flights safe. So I think with the reauthorization bill, we need to find ways to fix problems faster and keep finding ways to make flying safer in the future. In terms of making better tech for training, pilots need the best training. And so using advanced simulators is a great way to do this. The industry really needs to embrace technology to improve the process of training and the speed of training. And this is both for pilots and air traffic control systems. I think proposals to allow more simulator hours as part of pilot training is a step in the right direction. The way it's set up right now is it's sort of anchored to flying in the airplane today, but you've flown in a simulator before. You see how realistic it is. I think more could be done there, and this will lessen the financial burden and the time it takes our pilots to train.
And Michael, there are so many new up-and-coming companies that are investing in using more simulators for training. We could do a whole show on it, but you're absolutely right. The airlines, the military, they rely on this technology to teach things that are very difficult in the actual aircraft. And there's definitely a new horizon there. And it would be really interesting to see how this will be implemented within the new reauthorization bill.
That's spot on. I think embracing the new technology reflects the understanding that modern simulators, offer high fidelity environment that are crucial for developing pilot skills. In addition to that, you can pause, you can go back, you can review the data. And so really embracing these technologies, I think, will improve the pilot pipeline.
For sure. For
the bill to pass, there needs to be strong collaboration across multiple stakeholders, including lawmakers, aviation industry groups, and union. There needs to be a concerted effort to bridge differences and find common ground, especially on continuous issues like pilot training requirement and the pilot retirement age. And in a sense, we're already seeing some collaboration. A few weeks ago, aviation trade groups sent a letter to the Senate to urge them to pass the bill. And I believe it represented stakeholders all across the industry. There was the pilot unions, there were the manufacturing groups, there were the business aviation groups. And so we just also need to align on the issues to speed things up.
And what's really interesting, Michael, is there's a huge demographic here that I feel like doesn't... we don't talk much about, and that's the flying public. And it was interesting. I saw an interview recently about a media organization talking to passengers about what they would like to see in this new reauthorization bill. And a lot was focused around like bigger seats, more comfortable seats, and so on. But then there were elements like security just took so long. And there is talks about possibly increasing the amount of dogs that don't necessarily need to be trained by the government. The airports could train them. That could really expedite the security, the TSA lines. And then, of course, with all of the major delays that happen, especially during the holidays, just being able to compensate passengers for these long delays that occur. But yeah, there's so much there for the flying public this time around. And it's great to see that their voices are also being considered.
You make a great point, Shasta, because that's one of the other key priorities in the bill. around improving airports and the support staff. And so I think the bill should provide funding for, as you said, modernization of airport infrastructure, as well as addressing workforce challenges. I think we're back at a point pre-COVID where more people are traveling, and so the infrastructure is needed in terms of staffing. And then we've heard the story time and time again where it relates to air traffic control staffing and training. And so there can't be enough funding towards that right now because that's what we need to maintain efficient and safe airspace. Then the other key priority I mentioned is keeping an eye on the future. I think while we're addressing current issues, industry leaders still need to keep an eye on the future. And we've seen this over the last few years with introduction of new technology, the eVTOLs and SAF and things around infrastructure. And so how are we thinking about the integration of these new technologies into the ecosystem? So the bill needs to have provisions that prepare for some of the emerging challenges and opportunities, such as I said, integrating unmanned aircraft systems into the national airspace system, as well as addressing environmental concerns with sustainable aviation practices and incentives and so forth.
Those are really good key points that I'm excited about, but also I'm really curious to know what's going to happen with the Youth Access to American Jobs in Aviation report, as well as the Women in Aviation Advisory report that came out about 2 years ago. And, all of this work went into researching how do we get more young people into the industry, what's currently being done, just so much in both of these reports for the youth as well as women in aviation. And now that we're in 2024, it's like, gosh, there's so much great data there and it's just sitting there. So I'd really love to see how these two reports get implemented and embraced by the FAA so that we can truly make a difference in terms of bringing more diversity and opportunities for minorities and women within the industry.
Shasta, you make a great point. That's something that I didn't even consider, but the work that the task force and the advisory board put together to create these recommendations to improve the workforce in the industry is essential, and we shouldn't let it go to waste. And speaking in particularly to the task force, there are so many great recommendations that I would love to see the FAA get behind. And I think they align with what we're trying to achieve at DreamSoar. Things like bringing aviations to schools and hands-on learning and regional groups, standardized curriculums, strategic partnerships. I think there aren't enough of these things, and just support for these recommendations coming to fruition would be helpful in moving the industry forward if we're going to compete against other industries for talent and just move the industry forward altogether. With the FAA's innovative approach to introduce young people to aviation careers, such as Adopt a School program and engaging with students through modern platforms like social media and gaming, how do you see these initiatives shaping the future of the aviation industry? You've seen the variety of outreach in schools. What role do you think these efforts play in diversifying the field and ensuring a steady influx of talent?
So, Michael, with DreamSoar, maybe your viewers are familiar, maybe they're not. We've done a lot of outreach, and a lot of it started before the global flight, where we were going to aviation events, talking to young people about careers in aviation. And a lot of the impact happened during the global flight, where we hosted over 30 outreach events in 22 countries. We had the opportunity to meet with 3,000 kids face to face. And these outreach events were not really like the meet and greet style. A lot of them were very organized. There were other speakers. There were booths of aviation companies. They were just very well executed. And then post-flight, I think, is where the majority of the outreach happened, where it was kind of a celebratory tour around the U.S., even around the world, connecting with more kids and talking to them about careers in aviation and aerospace. And when I think about all of this innovation that's going to happen within the next couple of years, I just I get a little worried because I feel like there's so much talent out there, and we just have to do, like as an industry, we have to do a better job attracting them. A lot of them are going to pursue careers in tech and, in other fields. And I feel like the reauthorization bill, if it really connects with the youth on a regional level, could really make an impact. And what's so great is that the FAA already has about 7 regional offices scattered around the United States. So really activating them and ensuring that those offices are working locally with schools, with the youth, introducing all that aviation has to offer, not just careers in flying and air traffic control and maintenance, which are the 3 common careers that are featured, but really painting a picture of what's to come with space travel, with drones, with sustainability. I mean, there's just so much there. I think that that's really going to help move the needle and bring a new, diverse energy to our industry. So, Michael, I'd love to shift gears here for a little bit, talking about a very hot topic that we are just hearing constantly about in the news, at events, and that is sustainability. Sustainability is really becoming increasingly important with the growing emphasis on sustainable aviation fuels, which is also known as SAF. How do you see this evolving in our industry? And also, I'd love to hear, what are the current challenges and opportunities with SAF, and how might they impact the future of environmentally responsible flying?
So regarding sustainable aviation fuels, I think we're gaining significant momentum in that space, and there are several key developments worth noting. One, we're starting to see regulatory shift to encourage more sustainable practices. A couple of years ago, the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, proposed rules requiring companies to disclose their climate impact. And I think we could see this affect business travel, pushing companies towards more sustainable practices. We're also seeing them encouraging the measuring of the impact. And this is the scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. A few years ago, we also saw the government create a credit to boost SAF production. In the 2022 Inflation Reduction Act, the government passed or provided a $1.25 tax credit to produce SAF. And I think this will only boost the SAF production because now there's an incentive. Charlie Munger famously said, incentives are everything. We're also starting to see some of that play out. The first ethanol plant to produce SAF in the US was opened by a company called LanzaJet. And it's a $200 million facility in rural Georgia that was opened. And this plant is almost positioned perfectly to receive government funding to create the SAF that we need. We know that President Biden has called for at least 3 billion gallons of overall SAF production to be produced by 2030. So this is a great indicator that we're seeing progress. And then the last thing I'll talk about is awareness. And we're starting to see advocacy in the area. Last year, NBAA and Gamma, they came together for the Climate Fast campaign, which is an advocacy initiative to showcase business aviation's social benefits, as well as how they're driving opportunities in the workforce, as well as sustainable innovations in the space. And so I think overall in the sustainability space, with the regulatory changes, increased awareness, and technological advancement, 2024 will be a year where we'll see significant gains towards becoming a more sustainable industry.
Michael, let's talk about another hot topic in aviation, the implementation of safety management systems, SMS, in business aviation. Ed Bolin of NBAA has highlighted the importance of SMS, especially with the upcoming FAA rulemaking expected in mid-2024. Could you elaborate on the impact of this SMS mandate for Part 135 operators, air tours, and manufacturers? And then additionally, how do you see it shaping the safety and operational standards in business aviation? along with what challenges might the industry face in scaling SMS appropriately?
Chess, I think the upcoming SMS mandate is a significant step towards making business aviation more safe and increasing the overall safety of the aviation industry. So let's talk about what this all means. I think implementing a system-wide safety approach would allow business aviation to have a structured system to identify and manage safety risk in aviation operations, as you see in the airlines. It becomes a more proactive approach, moving beyond just reacting to past accidents to focusing on how we can prevent future accidents by understanding and mitigating risk. In terms of what it means, particularly for Part 135 operators, which are typically business, charter, and fractional carriers, we will see more proactive safety management. So Part 135 operators will now be required to adopt a more proactive approach to safety. So this means identifying potential hazards and risk in their operations and taking steps to mitigate them before incidents occur. I think we'll also see a structured safety framework. Again, this already exists in the airlines. We just now need to see them be adopted in the business aviation sector. And at times there have been pushback from operators who don't have the scale to implement these systems, but we know that getting everyone on the same page would be very important. I think there's also then this enhanced accountability and transparency. The way that will happen will come from the fact that operators will now have to document incidents as they occur. And this will allow us to track trends, to see, where there are gaps in the system and the things that we can fix. So Shasta, clearly a lot is at stake this year for the FAA Reauthorization Bill. There are priorities around safety. There are priorities around improving and growing the workforce. There are priorities around improving and growing airport infrastructure. And then in the business aviation sector where we exist, there's this call for implementing safety management systems across all business operators. So this is a big bill. It's been delayed for a long time, but without it, the FAA can't function. I think I align with leaders expressing urgency for the bill to be passed so that we can get to the business of doing business.
So just one last note to wrap this all up. The FAA Reauthorization Act of 2023 is for the next 5 years. The total cost is $107 billion, and that's divided into $20 billion for the Airport Improvement Program, $67.5 billion for total agency operations, $18.2 billion for the FAA facilities and equipment, and then also $104 billion in funding for the FAA over the next 5 years. We are really interested in seeing how, we had this extension, how this is all going to come together within the next couple of months. And we're really excited for just some of the improvements and recommendations and items that are part of this bill, and just seeing that come to life within the next 5 years.
So we're in a pivotal time in aviation where there's new technology on the horizon. There's an opportunity to bring in fresh talent, and getting this bill done will only make things go faster. So I'm glad that we have a permanent leader in place, and I hope he'll stay in place. It sounds like the major stakeholders are willing to work together across some issues. And I just hope everything works out.
So that's it for this episode of Uplink. Thank you all so much for joining us. Be sure to connect with us to share your thoughts and ideas about the FAA Reauthorization Bill. And we look forward to connecting with you on Monday. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Before we move on, we've got just a couple of important housekeeping notes for all of our listeners out there. The first is join Uplink LinkUp community. Here's one benefit of joining. If you're looking to dive deeper into the world of aviation and join the conversation, we'd love for you to be a part of our Uplink